So I'm working from my folder of images. I have what are raw files on my thing called a NEF file. So these are Nikon electronic format from my Nikon camera. I'll just grab that image. So I tend to work from folders when I work in here, but so let's say I want the guy in the foreground to appear back in here to add him in as the fifth beetle, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a little tricky with my background here, but it can work. Alright, so with an NEF file, I get the ability to change. This is with an NEF file, it's different than a JPEG. Mm-hmm. JPEG, it's what the camera interpreted. With an NEF file with your Nikons, or any RAW type file with a Canon, you get the camera information and you can interpret the information manually. So I'm just going to open this image after changing around my slider a bit, and then I've got my palette here. I'm on my zoom tool, so now I'm going to zoom in on this man in the foreground. I'm moving over to my layers palette. This is my background image. Okay, mm-hmm. This is locked, which can be a problem when you're messing around with editing, because you can't really make that many changes to this one. If I press up on this down arrow on the palette, I can duplicate the layer. I could also right-click on that same thing to do that. So I'm going to right-click on there and duplicate the layer. So I've got my background and my background copy. I always like to delete the original background. It bothers me when that's locked. That's the fastest way of getting rid of a locked layer, especially an original one. So I've got a background copy and a background copy 2 now. Mm-hmm. Alright, so all I really need to do here to move him into the back of the pile here, mm-hmm. is I need to cut him out. So what I'm going to do, because I've got this one, this is the layer I'm working on, mm-hmm. this is the layer I've got there. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is do a rough cut. So I've got different tools over here. There's the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, the magnetic lasso. Students tend to like the magnetic one. I find it not very precise and it bothers me. Mm-hmm. So I like the polygonal lasso because I can go in, I can click roughly around an object. Okay, so I'm just clicking around the student here. And he's got his little shirt tail there. Just getting around that. When I'm getting close, I can just double click and it'll connect the dots to fill him in. Mm-hmm. Alright? So he's on a separate layer. So I can just go to my select pull down menu and hit inverse. So now I've selected everything around the person. I'm hitting the delete key and I'm going to hide my background layer right now. So by hitting the delete key, I've just rubbed out everything that wasn't my selection. Alright, I'm going to go back in here now, and I'm going to select inverse again, so now he's selected. Alright, I can also go up in here and use the refine edge tool. So in here I can actually paint, but now I'm actually adding more of the background. So if I hit cancel and I go back to selecting inverse, because I did that wrong, go back to refine edge, I can actually paint out parts that I don't want selected. Or actually this is parts that I'm currently selecting. So this is one way of doing this. It's by far not the only way of doing it, because Photoshop can do anything 3 different ways. So if I just That didn't work today. So you can normally paint it, you can change different things out. Another way of doing this, now I could actually do the deselect thing. I've got my eraser tool here, and I can change my mode. Alright, so I've got the size of my erasers here. I'll start with there, and this is the hardness of my eraser. The harder it is, the more it stays to a shape. If it's soft, it kind of rubs out things generally. Mm-hmm. So here's a hard rub out. You can see that circular edge.
Yep.
Here's the same thing at 0% for softness. You see how that edge isn't so hard.
Yep.
So now what I can actually do is I can rub out, just tickling the edge. And
so you're doing it with a little soft.
Just a little soft, so it's just tickling the edge. It's making the edge of him transparent, so he'll actually blend into the new background a little bit easier. The problem I'm going to have here, though, so let's say I actually have time to go around and do everything neatly and get in just so it's slightly transparent around it. I can right-click to change the size of my eraser. So when I'm in these little tight little nooks and crannies, I can get in a little bit tighter.